The porch light flickered like a dying firefly. It wasn't even a good flicker. More like a stutter, like it was trying to decide if it wanted to be on or off. I'd already jiggled the switch a couple of times, hoping to coax it into a more confident glow, but no luck. It was just pathetic. I was already halfway down the driveway, keys in my hand, the cool metal a familiar weight. I'd planned on staying for a few hours, maybe helping my mom with something, then heading out. A typical Sunday. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Because then the text came. Don't bother. Just like that. From my mom. No explanation. Nothing. My sister. Yeah, it had to be her. Always the drama amplifier. She'd probably spun some tale about me bringing. What? Bad vibes? A contagious mood? Who even knows with her? You know how it is with families. One little thing snowballs into a full-blown blizzard of passive aggression. I swear, sometimes I think she thrives on this stuff. Like, if everything's too peaceful, she gets bored. So I'm standing there, streetlight glinting off the chrome of my car, and I'm thinking, fine. Absolutely fine. I'll just drive. To the beach. Because why not? The ocean doesn't care if my family thinks I'm some kind of emotional black hole. It just crashes on the shore. Uninterrupted. Like it's got its own agenda. That's what I like about the ocean. It's just doing its thing. No drama. No passive-aggressive texts from my sister. It was late. Past midnight. The highway was empty, just a ribbon of asphalt unfurling into the dark. I remember the smell of the air conditioning kicking in. That slightly musty, recycled scent that always reminds me of that one summer job. We were packing boxes for some event, in a warehouse that felt like a tomb. Felt like we were suffocating in there, the air thick and still. This felt different. Like breathing. A real breath, not just the shallow kind you take when you're trying not to make waves. Mind you, I'd been looking forward to seeing my niece. She's like 6. And she always runs up to me, calls me Uncle Matty even though my name is Matthew. It's cute. She has this little gap in her front teeth that shows when she smiles. And she'll grab my hand and drag me around to show me all her drawings. And now I'm just not going. Because my sister decided my presence was a threat to the delicate ecosystem of family harmony. Whatever. It's not like I was planning on dropping a bombshell. I was just going to be there. Eat some of Mom's terrible casserole, maybe. Listen to my dad drone on about the news. Apparently, that's too much to ask. I passed a billboard for a discount mattress store. The sheer audacity of it, advertising sleep when I was wide awake, my insides buzzing with a low-grade hum of something. Not anger, exactly. More like a coiled spring. I could feel my left eyebrow twitching. A new one. Great. That's just what I needed, another physical manifestation of my family's dysfunction. Maybe next it'll be my knee clicking every time my sister opens her mouth. The radio was playing some old song. Something about freedom. Seemed fitting. The car was humming, a steady thrum against the quiet. The road stretched out, a promise of open space. I didn't even bother changing the station. Whatever came on was fine. It all sounded like background noise to the real show, which was me driving away from the drama. I turned off the main highway. Onto the smaller, winding roads that led to the coast. The trees pressed in closer, their branches like skeletal fingers against the sky. The pavement was rougher here. Bumpy. It felt like the road itself was trying to shake me off, like it didn't want me either. But I just kept going. My car, bless its rusty heart, just kept chugging along. I needed to get out. To somewhere that didn't feel so contained. So full of unspoken resentments. I thought about calling them. Texting back. Something sarcastic. Something that would make my sister seethe. Like, oh, is the vibe too real for you guys? Or, guess I'm just too much for your little gathering. Don't worry, I'll be sure to brood elsewhere. But what's the point? They didn't want me there. So be it. It was like trying to argue with a brick wall. Or, worse, trying to argue with my sister. That's a losing battle. I remembered a time, must have been years ago, I was at a wedding. Some distant cousin. And I was stuck talking to this guy for what felt like an hour. He was going on and on about his stamp collection. Like, seriously. Stamps. The different types, the rare ones, the history behind them. And I just stood there, nodding, while my mind was miles away, planning my escape. I kept looking at the buffet, calculating how long it would take to casually drift over there without him noticing. This felt like that, but in reverse. I was the one being excluded. I was the one trying to escape, but this time, the escape route was just driving. So yeah. The beach. I pulled over a few miles from the water. Just got out and stood there. The air was colder, carrying the unmistakable salt tang. I could hear the distant roar of the waves. Not loud, but insistent. Like a heartbeat. A big, steady, reliable heartbeat. Not like the jittery, anxious pulse of my family gatherings. I looked back at the car. The dome light was still on. A little beacon in the darkness. It was like a tiny, lonely island. I remember thinking, should I turn it off? But then I thought, no, let it shine. It's a signal. A signal that someone's here. Even if it's just me and my car. I just stood there. Listening. To the waves, to the wind, to the silence that wasn't really silent. It was full of sounds, just not the kind of sounds that made me feel pressured or judged. Then I started walking towards the sound. The sand was damp under my shoes. It was kind of packed down from people walking on it earlier. I could feel the grit under the thin soles of my loafers. I should have worn sneakers. This was stupid. But I was already committed. I saw a figure on the beach. Just one. Walking near the water's edge. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. They were just a silhouette against the faint moonlight. They were walking slowly, their head down, like they were deep in thought. Or maybe they were just looking for shells. Whatever they were doing, they were alone. And that felt okay. Normal, even. This whole thing was ridiculous. My family. My sister. The way they could twist things. The way they could make me feel like the villain just for existing. It was exhausting. I needed to reset. To get away from all that. I kicked off my shoes. The sand was cool. It felt good between my toes. It was a grounding sensation, literally. Like the earth was saying, hey, you're here. You're real. I walked closer to the water. The roar of the waves got a little louder. It was a powerful sound. It made me feel small, but in a good way. Like my problems were also small, in comparison to this endless, moving body of water. So yeah. That was it. I was at the beach. Alone. With my thoughts and the sound of the ocean. Anyway. The waves kept coming. I walked for a while. Just letting my feet sink into the sand. It was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from physical exertion, not from emotional turmoil. I thought about that summer job again. Packing boxes. The smell of cardboard and stale air. This was so much better. The air was clean, sharp with salt. I needed to call the dentist. My tooth had been bothering me. I'd been putting it off, of course. Because that's what I do. Put things off. Especially things that involve discomfort or effort. Like family drama. Or dental appointments. Or apologizing for something I didn't do. The figure on the beach was still there, a little further down. They hadn't noticed me. Or if they hadn't reacted. Which was also fine. No expectation of interaction. Just two people sharing the same stretch of sand, each in their own world. I thought about my niece again. Uncle Matty. She'd probably ask about me. And my sister would have some excuse. Oh, Uncle Matty had to go away. He's very busy. Busy doing what? Driving aimlessly to the coast because his family made him feel unwelcome. Real important stuff. The sand was getting wetter now, closer to the water. The foam from the waves was creeping up the beach. It was a really pale, almost white foam. It looked like whipped cream for giants. I'd never really thought about what beach foam looked like before. It's just foam. But when you really look at it, it's kind of intricate. I heard a car door slam in the distance. Back near where I'd parked. I didn't look. It could have been anyone. Someone coming for a late-night walk. Someone losing their car keys. Or maybe it was someone from my family, realizing they'd made a mistake and coming to apologize. That was a long shot, though. A very, very long shot. My sister's pride was a formidable thing. I stopped walking and just stood there, letting the water wash over my ankles. It was cold, but not unpleasantly so. It felt cleansing. Like it was washing away the day's frustrations. The text message. The unspoken accusations. The feeling of being the outsider. I looked up at the sky. It was clear. Lots of stars. You don't see that many stars in the city. It was a good reminder that there was a whole lot more out there than just my immediate circle of family and their petty squabbles. I could hear the person on the beach walking again. They were moving away from me now. Towards the other end of the beach. Good. I didn't need company. Not right now. I needed to just be with myself. And the ocean. I remembered a time I'd gone camping with some friends. We'd built a fire, and we were just sitting there, watching the flames. No one was talking much. We were just enjoying the quiet. And then one of my friends, Mark, he started singing. Off-key. A really cheesy song from the 80s. And everyone else joined in. And it was terrible. Absolutely awful singing. But it was also fun. It was this shared moment of uninhibited silliness. I don't think my family does that anymore. Too much self-consciousness. Too much worrying about what everyone else thinks. I started walking again. This time I was heading back towards the car. I wasn't going to stay out here all night. I needed to get some sleep. And tomorrow. Well, tomorrow was another day. A day without passive-aggressive texts, hopefully. I paused for a moment and looked back at the ocean. The waves were still rolling in. The sound was steady, rhythmic. It was a constant. Something I could rely on. Unlike certain family members. I found my car. The dome light was still on. I got in. The interior smelled faintly of old coffee and air freshener. I turned off the light. The car plunged into darkness. I started the engine. The headlights cut through the night. I wasn't sure where I was going to sleep. Maybe a cheap motel. Or maybe I'd just drive for a while. See where the road took me. The possibilities felt open. Unrestricted. I put the car in reverse. I backed out of the parking spot. I drove slowly, the tires crunching on the gravel. I glanced at the beach one last time. The figure was gone. Or maybe they were just further away. It didn't matter. I turned onto the road. The headlights illuminated the empty asphalt. The trees on either side were just dark shapes. I felt a sense of relief. It wasn't happiness, exactly. More like the absence of something negative. Like a weight being lifted. I drove for a while. The radio was still on. The same song about freedom. It was a little on the nose, but I didn't care. I needed to hear it. I needed to believe it. I passed a gas station. The lights were bright, almost blinding. A couple of people were inside, buying snacks. They looked normal. Like they had places to be. People to see, and no one was sending them cryptic texts telling them not to bother. Lucky them. I thought about my sister's face. The way she could get that tight, judgmental look. Like she was the arbiter of all things good and proper. I knew she thought she was doing what was best. Protecting the family. But sometimes, protecting the family meant excluding one of its members. Which was, in itself, a kind of damage. I needed to stop at some point. I was getting tired. My eyes were starting to feel heavy. I kept seeing the flicker of the porch light in my mind's eye. That pathetic, dying light. I found a small motel. It had a neon sign that buzzed. The kind of place where you didn't ask too many questions. I went inside and paid with cash. The clerk barely looked at me. He just handed me a key. Room number 7. The room was basic. A bed, a TV, a small bathroom. It smelled like cleaning supplies and desperation. But it was a place to sleep. A place to escape. I got undressed and got into bed. The sheets were clean, but a little scratchy. I lay there for a while, staring up at the ceiling. I could still hear the distant hum of traffic. It was a different kind of hum than the one in my car. This one felt more urban. Less isolated. I thought about my niece again. Uncle Matty. I'd have to see her another time. Maybe I'd send her a postcard. From wherever I ended up. A postcard that my sister wouldn't approve of. I closed my eyes. The image of the ocean kept coming back. The vastness of it. The constant motion. The sound of the waves. It was a good sound. A peaceful sound. I drifted off to sleep, the sound of the distant traffic a lullaby of sorts. It wasn't the family harmony I was supposed to be a part of. But it was a different kind of peace. A self-made peace. And for tonight, that was enough.